This is how I would relearn Apex if I had to start over. And this is coming from someone who has over 7,000 hours in playtime alone. Even more if I included time spent coaching others. Now these things will apply to all skill levels in one way or another, so let's begin. Number 1, before jumping into BR, use the firing range and mixtape to your advantage to understand the movement and the different weapons. Mixtape was added back in season 16, but for people who have been playing this game since it came out, there were several years where a quick match with fast-paced action just didn't exist in Apex. So getting reps in on the mixtape mode can be advantageous to developing your skills. Now, assuming you care more about the Battle Royale mode, mixtape will have some things that will carry over to the main game, but some things that will not. For example, there's auto healing in mixtape. All the weapons have attachments on them with sights, and of course, you get infinite lives. So there are some pros and cons to learning the ropes in mixtape, but keep in mind some big differences are at play here too. Nonetheless, just getting in there, practicing fighting, using some abilities and movement, along with understanding the weapons, can be a huge asset for newer players. Number 2, familiarize yourself with all of the legends. And I don't mean you have to play them all, at least not yet, but what you need to do is read through what they can do, even if it's just roughly, so that you can understand the general categories of the legends, like support, assault, etc. Now, with over 25 legends, it sounds like a lot of info to learn. And if you're brand new, then yeah, it certainly will be. So this will take a lot of time, but don't ignore it. The most important thing here is just being aware of possible situations that legends can create. Now, I know most people just want to jump into action and play, and you should, but just take a couple minutes after each match to read what the legend's abilities are and etc. before you go into playing the next match. Or you can also test them in the firing range as well, as all legends are unlocked and playable in the firing range. Now, I didn't do this when I first started, and it took me so much longer to understand what the heck was going on every time I played. And this was back when Apex only had like 8 or 10 legends. But trust me, this will only help you. Number 3, when it comes to which legends to be playing, my advice is to focus on playing only 2 of them, at least to start out. You obviously hear about people maining a legend, and while doing this can certainly be beneficial, it's best to have options here in case your legend gets selected by someone else, or you get bored of the legend, or maybe all of a sudden your favorite legend just isn't as good anymore. Learning to play 2 legends is manageable, and then after you get this down, you can then think about trying out some others. Now, of course, you can go ahead and play as many legends as you want, but the reason I'm giving this advice is because chances are, if you're constantly swapping legends, especially early on, you're not going to have a good grip on any of them. I'm sure you've heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, that's how it can be in Apex. Another thing that players often struggle with is the muscle memory of the abilities. They get so used to using one legend's abilities in a certain situation or scenario, and then they're on a different legend and they go to press the tactical or their ultimate, and they're going to get a totally different outcome. So focusing on 2 is actually probably the smartest thing to do, at least early on. Number 4, as you begin your Battle Royale match, try to drop with only one other team. Of course, this is just a guideline. Sometimes you will try for this and fail because multiple teams land in the point of interest, aka POI, that you're going to land in. Other times, no one will be going there, but maybe you thought there was going to be one. Look around as you fly to see what is around you. This will give you more awareness after you land. This advice sounds rather straightforward or simplistic, but it's important because one other team is manageable to deal with. 4 other teams generally is not. Dropping alone can also be fine, but this is probably better suitable for the ranked mode where the game is inherently more sweaty or competitive. But if you also want to drop alone, try to focus on dropping near another POI that has a lot of action. This is a good segue into number 5. Understand that looting is a part of the game, but it's not the majority or the sole purpose. The majority of your time should be spent looking for enemies and fighting, alongside moving into the best possible positioning that you and your squad can get. This tip, single-handedly, might be the most important thing to take with you in this Battle Royale game. Now, every experienced player is doing this, but most new people do the opposite here. It's sort of like a natural evolution of the game and the skill ladder, but the sooner you can adopt this principle of focusing more on fighting and positioning as opposed to just looting, the better off you'll be for the long term. Number 6, you gotta identify the hero mentality and leave it in the lobby. I've talked about this one before in some of my videos, but look, you want to be a good teammate, right? Well, nearly every player ends up wanting to do this, but they do it in the wrong ways. Once again, a natural evolution of an Apex player. Now, this will look different in each situation, but here's just a quick example. Let's say your teammate runs into a building and ends up getting into a fight. They get knocked rather quickly. Player 2 walks in 5 seconds later and same outcome. They die. So you, player 3, does the same thing, but 10 seconds later. Well, player 2 and 3 are all reacting to to what just happened to player one, but they often lack the information or the tactics of what to do as they go about this situation. Just going into the building blindly never really creates a sustainable strategy. And player one never created an opening in the fight, aka dealing a lot of damage to the enemies. Player two and player three don't realize that their teammate just died so fast because 3 enemies were all stacked up on one another in that building and team fired player one. If you just run in blindly trying to assist your teammate, often you aren't focusing on your surroundings the same way you would if you weren't trying to be this hero in the moment. Look, it all just stems from that urge of, oh, I gotta be in the situation because my teammate went down and I need to be helpful. Now you can still do that, but you need to use your brain and apply some tactics here as well. Otherwise, you'll never get the outcome you want, which is ultimately reviving or respawning your teammate and hopefully wiping the squad that took out your teammate. But number 7, on the opposite end of tip 6, don't trust that your teammate will do the right thing. This is especially true for random teammates. I think a lot of people give randoms the benefit of the doubt. And I don't mean to sound jaded here, but oftentimes you're better off not doing this because they're probably going to do something totally oppositional to what you thought they were going to do in the first place. Maybe you think they'll stay and fight with you in a situation where you think it's appropriate to, and they run. Or maybe they stay too long within a fight after you and your other squad mate have tried to back up because things are clearly not going your way. If you aren't paying attention to what they're doing constantly, you will make a ton of misreads. And even a player like myself, there are times where I think my teammate's going to do one thing and they totally do something different. The best way to go about this is don't be a complete jerk to your randoms, but just err on the side of caution. Assume they're probably going to do the wrong thing, but if you see them do the right thing or the thing that you're also thinking of doing, play up and play together and try to lean into the teamwork aspect whenever possible. Number 8, understand your role on the team. What character did you choose and how is this going to impact the way you play the game and work with your squad mates? This sounds, once again, really simplistic, but so many players end up choosing a legend in a role that is actually not what their playstyle is. If you're playing Lifeline and getting knocked first, you're playing her wrong. If you're playing Lifeline and not reviving your teammates, you're probably playing her wrong too. These are just general examples, but for the most part, try to understand the role that you want to fulfill. And also understand if you solo queue and that role is already being fulfilled, what can you pivot to? What other legend class are you flexible with? If you typically play the assault class and you like running Bangalore, but the random teammate took Fuse, is it necessary to have Bangalore as well? Or would you be better suited to have a controller legend or a support legend or whatever? Understanding the role on the squad will come with some more time. It's more detailed than just understanding the legend's abilities, and it can look different in so many situations on top of what the other teammates' roles are on your squad. But the sooner you can start to process this, the better off you'll be. Number 9, try to spend more of your time and your focus on in-game skills such as positioning and using terrain on the map. This will be far more impactful than obsessing over movement mechanics in the beginning. Now, I know movement has this alluring effect to a lot of players. And look, there's no doubt it's one of the main reasons as to why Apex is so cool. But if you focus on that before understanding positioning or map awareness, you're going to miss the forest for the trees here. Movement is an addition, it's an accompaniment to positioning and using the map terrain around you. I'm not saying don't learn movement, but what I'm trying to say here is don't try to focus on learning the guitar solo before you can understand the chord progression of the chorus and the verse. Number 10, the bigger picture is made up of the small details, and the small details matter. Relaying info to your teammates, such as armor color, pinging where they are, and the damage dealt to them are just a few details that can swing a fight entirely. I could probably make a whole video about the small details that matter here, but these are just a few, and the more you can pay attention to these details, the better off of a player you will end up. Number 11, make a plan for what you're going to do next. Many times players will play reactively rather than proactively. What is your next move in the fight? If this happens, what is your backup? What's your plan A? What's your plan B, etc.? Understand that you could get jumped or ambushed at any point throughout the match. Focus on where you are and what you would do if that came to be. Particularly focusing on your surroundings can help make you make a better decision. Also understand that survival items heavily assist here as well. Things like evac towers and heat shields can either buy you time in a rotation animation or buy you time in the zone if you have to stall. Number 12, the importance of armor swapping will become critical as you progress throughout this game. It's a mechanical tip, but you can improve rather quickly if you start focusing on, oh, there's an armor swap here and I have access to it. It'll be much faster for me to just enter this box, quickly grab the armor, and return back to battle. Whether that's actively within a fight or it's shortly after a fight is wrapped up and you're getting third-partied. Armor swapping will certainly save you time, and it's a skill gap because it's something that not every player is thinking about doing or can even try to do. Number 13, each gun has its own recoil pattern. Practice only the ones you struggle with. There are so many things to learn, so why waste valuable time with things you're already good at? Do keep in mind that these recoil patterns tend to change more often than not. This didn't used to be the case, well, at least it doesn't feel like it, but now they tend to change the recoil pattern far more often, particularly with the hip fire in the game. If it's a gun that you struggle with and it's not currently like a good weapon or within the meta, then don't really bother worrying about it. But if it's a gun that is now within the meta and you're not good with it, definitely spend that extra time practicing with it to try to improve. If you aren't keeping up with the meta or using the things in the meta, typically it will be harder to succeed. Not always. This is once again a general guideline, but it can only help you. Number 14, inventory management is the key to maximizing the outcomes of your fights. Apex at its core is a resource management game. Do you have enough shields, ammo, grenades, etc.? Do you have too many of these things? Are you carrying attachments for weapons that you don't actually hold right now? And do you have any room to quickly grab ammo in a fight, or is your inventory just full of other stuff? This skill, once again, will come with time. The sooner you know what goes on what weapon, how much ammo to have for it, how many shields to have, etc., the better off you'll be. I've covered this more in depth in other videos and I will link them below. Number 15. Simply going next and not analyzing your previous game can severely diminish your improvements over the course of your Apex career, or in any competitive game that you're playing. Learning to see your shortcomings is a huge asset here, and I'm a big proponent of it. I know the feeling of just wanting to get into the next game because the last game felt like crap, but the truth here is that succeeding often comes at the expense of failing over and over again. It's the people that understand why they failed and where they failed that typically reach success. And number 16, try to have some fun. This is a video game at the end of the day, and ultimately, if you're able to incorporate these 15 things into your gameplay, you should see more success, meaning less deaths, more kills, more wins. As that becomes the result, you should have more fun in the game. Nobody likes to lose over and over and over again. However, it is a part of the game in some way. But try to have fun, try to play this game with friends, and if you enjoyed this video, you may want to check out this video next. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.